Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for The Monkey Man. Inspired by the legend of Hanuman, Monkey Man follows Kid, an anonymous young man who makes a meager living in an underground fight club. After years of suppressed rage, Kid discovers a way to infiltrate the enclave of the city's sinister elite. As his childhood trauma boils over, his mysteriously scarred hands unleash an explosive campaign of retribution to settle the score with the men who took everything from him. So this is the directorial debut for Dev Patel. He also co-wrote the movie. This was already shown at South by Southwest. I heard that when they initially screened the movie, I believe at South by, they got a standing ovation.
And you can really see in this movie why it got a standing ovation. There is a ton of representation in here. You can tell that it's a passion project, and you can just tell that Dev Patel poured his heart and soul into this movie.
He really used the movie to show off his culture, for everything from the religion to the music to the clothes, just the scenery, the language, everything. And I ate all of that up because it felt so rich, and everything was so done with a purpose. I went in thinking Monkey Man is, a lot of people were doing kind of like John Wick comparisons, and like if you watch the trailer, you can kind of see where people would get the idea, because he's in a suit, he's bloodied, and there's obviously a lot of action, a lot of fighting. But aside from it being also a revenge story, John Wick is also a revenge story, and kind of taking down the elites and stuff. So that's a similarity, but I think after that, the similarity ends there. There is so much depth to this story. There's all these layers that we weren't expecting to find in this movie. And as each moment opens up the next new thing, we're like, oh, hold on, what is this? And it's just really, really intense, and that intensity continues to build until the final act.
Yeah, I personally wasn't really expecting this movie to be as gritty, as dirty. There's a lot of, from Act 1, 2, and 3, they are very well defined in which act that they are in this movie. And there's just a lot of times when it is just very psychedelic in one act, but then in another act it's just brutal and beaten down and just dirty and grimy in a lot of others. And you can tell that there's just a lot of inspiration. Yeah, inspiration pulled from John Wick, because there's even a joke. There's a literal joke about John Wick in the movie.
Right.
But they move on, and you're like, okay, that's obviously an inspiration. And you can kind of see that inspiration even in the trailers with some of these fight scenes. I do have to admit that I actually went into this movie thinking that a lot of the fight scenes were going to be shot a certain way. But they are not. They are actually shot in a completely different style, in a completely... I don't really know if I've actually seen this kind of style before. It's like a combination of shaky cam and close-ups, but then you do get to see some moments of good fighting. I personally really do like more of a single shot, long shot kind of fight cinematography style of fight choreography. But this movie does really use the style that they used to really portray just the grittiness and just beaten down he is, but he's always getting back up.
I think also earlier I mentioned in the synopsis of he's got all this suppressed rage, and the way they reveal that, they slowly kind of peel back the curtain so you can see where the backstory is. I thought it was done really brilliantly for the most part. Most movies do it in a way of exposition, where you sit down and you talk through the scene, and you talk through the flashback. But they showed it in kind of small pieces that you puzzle together, and then it isn't really revealed until closer to
the beginning of Act 3.
Yeah, and by then you've kind of had it figured out. So they just showed it to you real quick, and then we kind of get right back into it. But the way it's done is really, really smart. The action, like you said, the way they shot it, at first I was kind of a little disappointed, because I also wanted those, wider shots, master shots, so you can really see the fight. But after seeing the whole movie, I like that they kept it shaky and gritty. There's a reason for it, and you still see the choreography, you still see the punches land, so it doesn't take away from that. But I think it speaks to Kid's life, where it's all of this, he's got all this inner turmoil and nothing is steady about him. He tries, right, but there's nothing steady about it, and everything is just really raw and visceral. And I think that's why he chose to shoot those scenes like that. And then there was another particular scene where I talked about music earlier. He really used music, or not he, but like, the movie used the music really, really well. Not only music, like the cultural music, but also there was a song like Roxanne that they used in there. And I thought was used really brilliantly. I loved it. And it was like that throughout the whole movie. So like musical cues, the songs that they picked, the style that they chose was really great. There was a specific like kind of, I guess like you can call it a training montage.
Yeah, there's definitely a training montage in there. And the way they use the music to it. But also the way
so good.
that they used color and lighting and just the way that they were able to portray the two different sides of the city, I thought was done very well. Now, I came out of this movie just completely exhausted, and when Wendy, if you guys have watched our Out of the Theater reaction, she said her brain's a little mushy. Your brain does come out of this a little mushy because there's just so much of it. There's so many moments that is very psychedelic. When they did the explanation, when they started to reveal a lot of the exposition, they made it so, I love it when they don't just go, blah, here's the storyline. They gave you a little piece here, little piece here, little piece here. And then when they finally got to the reveal, they're like, now we're going to put it together for you.
Yeah.
So there was no big surprises because, you've seen all of the pieces already. They just put the pieces together and been like, hey, just in case you didn't catch it, here's the entire story. So, and I just like that kind of reveal better. Overall, I do have to admit, I do wish for some of the cinematic parts of the fight, they would have given us more of those long shots.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I can see how it serves this purpose and how it serves this telling of the story. And there was also me nitpicking some of the fights. There were some moments in there where I'm like, wait a second, wouldn't they all have guns?
Oh, okay.
There were a couple moments that I'm kind of like, okay, they have guns. They're going to tell how he's able to like move around them or navigate around them. They just kind of forget about it and then just go into the big nitty gritty, just beat them down. It's a brutal fight style.
Oh
that
my
they have in
God.
This. And there's so many moments in this movie where the audience is going, oh!
Yeah, there were a lot of those. I myself included, where I was like, obviously try not to make sounds and keep things like, contained to just me, but I was just like, but the whole theater was just groaning and moaning because some of the scenes you were kind of like, that's hard. It's coming. They set it up. Like, it's coming, but it doesn't make it less easy to watch, but it's also one of those like, moments. I also want to say...
oh my God moments.
With the shaky cam stuff, particularly pertaining to the fight, I feel like, and I don't know if it was meant as like kind of like a little bit of a metaphor in parallel to kids, journey and arc through the movie, but in the beginning, it was, unsteady, very shaky, kind of dirty shots, gritty, right? The second act, a little bit less so, but still kind of chaotic. After the training montage, I would say, and then you have these very long action scenes in the final act. I would say it was the most steady camera work out of all of them, and it feels like his transition into, because he had to do a little bit of soul searching, is like, what's the reason he's doing this? Don't forget the real reason you're doing this, and keep your anger, like kind of keep that in check as you complete your mission, if you will. And I felt like they kind of toned down the shakiness throughout the movie to kind of parallel his own mindset as he steadies himself. You can
definitely tell when he levels up in this movie. And with that said, also, there was a moment too in the final fight to where certain people join the fight.
Yes.
And I'm kind of like, wait, what? How are they able to even stand their own in this? So there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief in some of the fights, but just from how gritty and powerful it is, you're able to kind of shrug it off, and just kind of like how I was able to shrug off wouldn't they have guns and be like, okay, you know what, let's just watch this fight, because it is just
so cool.
One of those moments that you're like,
so cool.
And you just hold your breath through the entire fight.
For me, that was like a let's go moment. But I think pertaining to this group that you're talking about, in what they were wearing and the way they were represented as they entered the fight, I feel like that's less of a like he inserted that because it was important to him and to the culture. That's why it's in there. That's at least my take. So if you guys know otherwise, put that in the comments.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think because a lot of it was really important. They kept on going back to the root and what really inspired this movie, which is the story of Hanuman. So they never let you forget it. There's a lot of like parallel images to like kind of Kit's story and what he was going through, and then they would put like images from the story of Hanuman. So I thought that was really cool too. So I think for his first directorial debut, Dev Patel did a really fantastic job. I would love to see more stories told by him, whether he wants to co-write it or direct it or whatever. But really, really well done. Acting is really, really great. You're gonna love the heroes of this movie. You're gonna really hate the bad guys in this movie, because I was like, man, screw them. Every time one of them went down, I was like, yeah, stay down. So with that said, we're gonna go ahead and give you our rating for Monkey Man. Our movie couple rating is listed for you in the video description below. I really enjoyed it. I went from kind of like expecting a certain type of movie to, once it started, realizing, okay, not quite what I expected, but I hung in there and I ended up really, really enjoying it. I'm going to give this movie a check it out.
For me, I thought there was a lot of good action scenes, even though I have to admit the style of the cinematography for the fights weren't my favorite. I prefer more of a cleaner shot because I want to see that choreography. I want to see the style. I want to see all the hard work that the stuntmen and the fighters put into these fights. And you don't really get that as much as I would personally like. I do think that there's a couple moments where it is just incredibly gritty, incredibly dark. But it is the story of this character. I think it's still a good watch to go and see it in the theaters. I'm going to give it a matinee it.
And there you have it. That is our thoughts on The Monkey Man. Let us know your thoughts once you've seen it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.